Back for Track Talk is Troy Henning of Silver Dollar Speedway as they have the upcoming Fall Nationals in tribute to Stephen Allard. This is the final event for the racetrack in Chico, California in 2023, and they're expecting a big car count. And in this conversation, Troy and I talk about the history of this event and what it means to Northern California sprint car racing. That's coming up next after these messages. Dave's Home Supply specializes in cabinets, flooring, and countertops. Visit their website at daveshomesupply.com to look at products, services, financing, and even a free estimate. Are you looking for bookkeeping, payroll, or income tax services? Then check out the folks at For You Simple Bookkeeping. They are a licensed tax preparer throughout the entire United States. For more information, click on the link in the description. This broadcast is brought to you by Meat Freaks Jerky Club. Get the best jerky the world has to offer straight to your door by visiting meatfreaksjerkyclub.com. Pick your box and plan, tell them where to ship, and receive and enjoy. Log on to meatfreaksjerky.com and use promo code SPEED. Well, Troy Henning of Silver Dollar Speedway on the phone with us now. Troy, it's the Fall Nationals tribute to Stephen Allard as well. It's a big weekend and kind of a big a kiss goodnight, I guess you could say, for the 2023 season at Silver Dollar Speedway.
Yeah, it's always the ender, man. And, it's been a great event. It's been a well-known event over the years. It's heavily attended by race cars. Colby and I kind of talked yesterday, and we're thinking, definitely over 50 cars. We'd be shocked if we didn't get that. And so it's pretty amazing how year after year the Fall Nationals, so many people are into it and want to come up. And I think this year we've got the benefactor of, great weather, 89 to 90 degrees predicted as the high, no rain in sight. So on top of the great weather, the final race of the year, and as you know, Ben, as a historian that you are, relatively lack of racing this year at Silver Dollar Speedway due to bad weather. So I think if people really want to watch sprint cars and have the love and joy that you and I have for it, it really, boggles my mind if people don't have this event circled on their calendar to come down and hang out with us for a couple of days.
Well, absolutely. And this is a long-standing event. This isn't something that was invented 10, 15 years ago. It goes all the way back to, my records show 1996. Bud Kading won the first one and then backed it up the next year. And there's been some great names that have won this event. Shane Golobic, the defending champion, and really a who's who of the state of California have won this event.
Yeah, I think your list is right, but it's a little bit inaccurate. It actually started in 92 and is a 2-day show, and the popularity of it moved it to a 3-day show in 96, and that's the one Bud had won. Okay. But like Jimmy Sills, on our roster is kind of the original winner of this race. It was interesting. I was actually at the event in 1992 as a fan, believe it or not, and it used to be at the end of October, and there were so many cars that showed up for 360s. They had almost 100 in one night. Sure. So instead of doing a normal format in 92, they basically qualified and ran heat races, and that's it. That's all they could get out in the first night. The second night they ran main event, so they kind of did like a Gold Cup format. And then, the years to follow it continued to have a high car count, and that's when John Pageant said, well, let's move it to a 3-day show, and then my notes aren't in front of me, Ben, but I believe like 2011 or 12 is when I went back to a 2-day show. I could be off on that, but that's it. So it's kind of bounced around between 2-day and 3-day shows. But the history of this event dates back to 1992 when fair manager Tom DeGrazio came to John Pageant, and they kind of did a backroom deal. Tom, the fair manager, said, hey, I'm going to do this Halloween carnival, and we're going to put it out in the main fairground area, and I need people to show up, and I know people head to races, so are you able to host a race that coincides with this Halloween festival? And John said, sure. And that's why the original Fall Nationals is at the end of October. It's only been, halfway through its career that it got moved to the date it currently is, and we've kind of bounced that around a little bit. In fact, it used to be the 1st of October, then we moved it to the September, and now we're back in October. So it's kind of one of those races that really hasn't found a home like the Gold Cup. In September you're going to be at the Gold Cup. This one's kind of bounced around a little bit. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of names, and I just put out a piece yesterday on kind of the original gangsters of this racetrack are all going to be here for this weekend, which is a rare thing to have Tim Kading, Jonathan Allard, Andy Forsberg, and Sean Becker all at the same race. And TK has won the most of these with 5. They've all won a fall nationals in their career. So between them, the old school guys, and all the young kids that are coming up, it should be a good mix of veterans versus the youth.
Yes, and of course, a guy you can't discount is Shane Golobic, who hasn't won in some time at Silver Dollar, but no doubt he's going to be a hungry cat.
Yeah, Shane's the defending winner of this race. He's now a 2-time champion of the Fall Nationals. I put out something recently that if you look at his last 2 years, he's got 7 wins. Track championship and all kinds of accolades. And it's a pretty impressive list. I talked to Andy Forsberg about this. I said, we've had 20 sprint car races here the last 2 years. Shane has won 7 of them. But if you take out the World of Outlaws Gold Cup, which is 3 nights now, and that's kind of a different beast, you subtract 6 from 20. So you get basically, he's won 50% of our normal races between March and October. So 7 out of 14 is a really good stat. I mean, that gets you in, Cooperstown for Baseball Hall of Fame. So yeah, it's great stuff. And, constant professional. If any of the younger group, if I was 15 to 21 trying to make a name for myself in racing, the one guy I would go to now would be, I would just want to, duplicate Shane Golobic and how his driving style is and the way he presents his team and, the colors of his race car are always just perfect. And, the way he conducts himself on the racetrack and his demeanor is so great. So I don't want to make a love fest about Shane Golobic, but man, if there's any kids out there that want to look up to someone, I would say him. Back in the day, it would have been John Allard, Tim Kading, Andy and Sean and the goats of the racetrack. But obviously they're all, we're all getting older. So, I mean, they're all, I want to say, 44 and older off the top of my head. All of those guys are. So they're in my kind of age group nowadays. So Shane's kind of in that, still 30 age group where you could look to him and follow his career the rest of the way out.
Well, and you mentioned Hall of Fame. You guys do sort of, I guess I should ask before, you guys are going to do a special ceremony like you do on Saturday for the local California scene where you recognize some people that have accomplished some great accolades?
Yeah, it's a great thing. Mary Burton runs the NorCal Hall of Fame, and on Saturday afternoon, they set up at our garden court, which is kind of, about a football field away from the main grandstands, and there's a nice area that they'll set up. They'll do a barbecue. They're going to recognize some new Hall of Fame members. It usually takes place. They usually kick things off around 11:30. Then they show up early to set up, obviously, but it's about 11:30 to 2. You'll get some drinks and some food, and they'll have a microphone there, a host, and obviously they'll recognize. Off the top of my head, I know Gene Glenn, a longtime push truck driver, is going to be nominated or inducted, and so one of my heroes, non-sprint car guys, Randy McDaniel, who I was lucky enough to grow up not only announcing sprint cars, but in the heyday of modified racing here, we had some goats, and we had Richard Pappenhausen and Dwayne Cleveland, and then Adam McDaniel's in there, Randy, and then his son Ryan, who probably Randy will tell you is all but even better than himself. We had some great competition there for the early 2000s was Mark Abizade in the mix. I know Mike Sonnery was a guy that there were just these guys that were alpha males too, by the way. That's what the sport's kind of lost, between them, and we had hobby stocks and, sprint cars that were alpha males that walked through the pit area, and the younger guys looked up to them. And I think that's been lost a little bit. I think it's just a lot of, younger generation kids that maybe don't understand the history of the sport and the pecking order. And maybe it would be good to do more of these Hall of Fames to recognize some of these old people and listen to their accomplishments of what they've done. And that's why I did that post yesterday about, those 4 guys, Becker, Allard, Forsberg, and them. You look at the wins that they've accounted for in that amount of time, and that was basically from 1996 until 2021. None of them have really won recently. Andy's the only one. He won in 2021, but the other 3 have not won races in the 2020s. So this decade, 3 of the 4 have not even won a race. So that's where the changing of the guard has come into our sport. And I think it's cool to recognize those guys. And I have a goal this weekend to get those 4 guys. And then my top 5 of all time is Kyle Hurst. Those are my 5 guys. and Kyle will be here with Tanner Enterprises selling and slinging tires, and they'll have 2 cars to race. But I kind of want to get a group photo of all 5 of us, and those are my heroes. When I was lucky enough to be here, 99 to 2023. Those are the 5 guys that really, if you look at the wins list, I would say, man, Hurst is 10th all time or 9th. He's got 30 some wins. I'd say altogether they have 180 wins at this racetrack. I probably announced 175 of those wins. Nice. So I got this kinship with these guys. So as you probably have in your neck of the woods, I'm sure you've got guys that you've announced multiple wins and have kind of this connection with them.
Sure, yeah, Roger Crockett, definitely.
I was going to say Crockett. Yeah, Roger would be the guy. And Roger's good at Chico. I mean, if he actually raced his whole career at Chico, he would be maybe in the top 5. There's no doubt in my mind. I mean, he's already in the top, I think, 25 of all-time wins list here, and he didn't really race here a lot. But Crockett was so good at the Silver Cup, and he'd always be good at Fall Nationals. And the bigger races around here, Crockett would always be very solid.
Well, you mentioned Jonathan Allard, and this weekend, a special weekend for the Allard family with it paying homage to his late brother, Stephen.
Yeah, it's a great way to do that. The reason that came about was, 9 years ago, the family came to us and said, hey, Stephen's favorite race all year was the Fall Nationals. That's the one that he wanted to win the most, and he always looked forward to racing. It was the end of the year. And so they asked if he could be part of it. And it wasn't like they didn't want to take the Fall Nationals name away. It was, can we do in tribute to him? So that's where the in tribute comes from, the nice version of that. And they'll do shirts, which we've already shared this year. The front and back look great. Artist by, Randy Frank. And the cool thing about Stephen Allard, obviously multiple cool things about Stephen, but one of the things that I really enjoyed about Stephen was he had this goofiness to him before and after the races, and he was a fierce competitor, right? I mean, he would sling them with the best of them around the racetrack, but he had a very easygoing demeanor before and after the races, and there was not a point in my career when I walked to the pit area and he didn't either seek me out or I went to find him. And multiple times, if I was talking to a different driver and my back was to him, I'd either get pantsed or I'd get a wet wheelie in my ear, or I'd get a headlock, I'd get a noogie. I mean, there were things that he did to you, and he was just that kind of hands-on guy. And obviously we miss him tremendously. It's, his career was kind of just at the peak when he passed away, and that following year, he had signed a deal to drive the Tri-C Clyde Lamar, motorsport sprint car, and I think that would have been an amazing combination. 2-time track champion, and another guy that clawed his way to the top. I mean, he didn't have a pot to piss in. Everything he did was through car owners. Or who he knew, so kind of an old school guy way of doing it, him and his brother Jonathan. And a lot of guys back then, it wasn't about the family paying their way through racing. It was literally, you had to race your ass off, meet people, you had to sell yourself, and then, fall into something where a car owner believed in you and let you race their car. And that he's one of those guys near the end. I think kind of one of the last guys to do that, was Kyle Hurst. And that's why I consider him one of my top 5. Is Kyle really never produced his own car, but he was so talented and good that he had multiple, cars to drive. And that's how he built his career. And one of the last true guys that I love that did that. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm rambling, but yeah, it was just those guys, Stephen Allard and the guys I've mentioned, they're just a different breed of racer. And I'm just very lucky that I was, being involved with them, Stephen, and, the 4 guys I mentioned, on top of many other guys, obviously. I miss guys like Mason Moore and, guys that, ran around here on Friday nights that I built a strong connection with. Brett Miller was another good local driver that, obviously he's moved on. Mason Moore got married and has a child, and it's cool to see them now grow up and experience, what it's like to be a dad, like I was growing up through here and watching these guys.
Mm-hmm. Well, and any other special stuff that you guys are doing for the weekend? I know the NorCal Hall of Fame and the shirts in tribute to Stephen Allard. Any fun stuff, or also what's the best way for folks to look at the schedule of events for the weekend?
So what usually Colby does is I'll get some sort of a schedule by Wednesday, and then we'll post that more or less for the drivers, sake. But no, it's the same old. I mean, it's the cool thing about this race is there is a perpetual trophy that gets won each and every year, and then the winner has to bring it back. So Shane Golobic will bring that award back this year. And then whoever wins the race Saturday night, the family puts in a 6-pack of Coors Light, and the winner usually, drinks it. Just a small little thing that Stephen Allard always liked to do. He'd like to drink his Coors Light, and sometimes he'd put in a trophy. So they've continued that tradition. It'll be on Flow Racing both nights, and 50 cars. Obviously, follow the social media stuff and My Race Pass, and that'll get you caught up most. I mean, I think like a kid like Blaine Baxter. He's 15 years old. He's coming out from Texas. Multiple guys will have different drivers this weekend. I know Justin Sanders still doesn't know what car he's going to be in as of today, so he'll be here. But it's interesting. This race also you see like an influx of maybe car owners that are moving on from their current driver, and they'll try a new driver for this weekend. So that kind of throws a curveball into it.
Kind of like Trophy Cup a little bit, where there's a little bit of, if there hasn't been enough driver carousel already in 2023,
yeah,
kind of sometimes just a lot of one-offs too, just like a specialty partnership.
Well, let me throw this at you, and this could be breaking news for you. Next year, I've talked to Colby, and we'll see how this weekend goes, but we're kind of thinking like it'd be a cool deal to even move this race back another weekend again and piggyback with the Trophy Cup that you mentioned. Okay. Because if you had a guy from the Midwest, or even further out, instead of towing out for the Trophy Cup or just the Fall Nationals, we would now entertain the thought, let's team up a Trophy Cup next year and say, hey, you could race the Fall Nationals Friday and Saturday 360, stick around for a couple of days, and then, Tulare 5 hours, down, you could race 3 more nights. So we could give the guys, 5 nights of racing in 9 nights and make it well worth their trip all the way out from wherever they're at. So not confirmed or anything. It just, what do you think off the top of your head? Is that something that you think would attract more cars?
More bang for your buck, I think. But
I think so,
that's just me.
Well, no, I agree. I mean, I think if you're anywhere in, the Midwest or want to come out and try to race 2 of the, predominant racetracks in this area, you could get Silver Dollar Speedway and then the Trophy Cup. And so it's just a thought. Might not happen, but I thought Colby brought up a good point next year if we move it back even another week, and then kind of tie it into that, situation where you can come out and do it. Or maybe another track will do that. I'm not sure, but right now this whole Western United States is all about Wing 360 racing between us, and just had the Adobe Cup and of course the Trophy Cup that you've talked about. There's still more Sprint Car Challenge Tour events to be had. So I know you guys in our King of the West have a couple events, but majority of the stuff out here right now will be all Wing 360s. And look at what Doug Lockwood did. You were involved. The Hanford thing happened, and then Lockwood at noon says, let's do a pop-up race. And would you guys end up getting, like 13 cars?
13 cars, yeah, 13 cars too. So
it went nonstop, didn't it?
Yes, correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Stoppage free.
Yeah, it must have been the announcer.
Something. It must have been something.
You must have brought something into it.
Something. But yeah. Well, no, that's all really cool, and yeah, kind of like a mini speed week. That's not a bad idea.
Yeah, I don't see why. I mean, I know different things in your cars to change from Chico to Tulare, but I mean, it would be, to me, it'd be hard on some of the local teams, don't get me wrong, to have that many races, but then again, we're kind of thinking about maybe bringing some new blood out here and trying to get them more involved, and maybe we do some sort of, just top of my head, probably won't happen, but I mean, maybe we get together and do a 5-race point thing where, you could win a little bit extra cheddar if you race both nights at Chico and then do Trophy Cup, and then we do a separate points thing. So Trophy Cup definitely does need our help. Obviously, Silver Dollar, we're going to get 50 cars no matter what weekend we put it on, but it was just something out loud where we could maybe entice a couple of other guys from out of town to come out here for a week and get all that racing in. So anyways, we'll focus on this weekend. Like I said, should be great. Should have multiple drivers represented from different states up and down the West Coast. And who knows what's going to happen. I mean, if you had a betting chance, I would say, there's about 6-7 guys that probably would be the favorites, but anything with a 40-lap race on Saturday night and $5,000 on the line, anything's possible. But it'll be interesting to see how this thing shapes out. And, someone might become a repeat winner, or someone might, be the first Stephen Allard winner and really recognize how cool that award would be, and that trophy you get to keep for a year. And, the status that your name goes on, probably a T-shirt next year. So kind of cool things.
Absolutely. Well, looking forward to see how it all unfolds, and it's always a pleasure to talk to you, Troy.
Yeah, thanks for your time, man. I know you are 100% full throttle on all this stuff. So keep up the good work, and hopefully I'll see you down the road.
Well, that is going to do it for this interview. We hope you enjoyed it. Be sure and hit the like and subscribe button on whatever platform you found this interview at. It really helps us grow the channel, and we greatly appreciate it. In the meantime, we'll be back with more content and interviews in the future. Be sure and have a great evening or a great rest of your day, whatever time you're listening.